Hey there, it's me Josh. Welcome to Story Time. Today we're going to be reading Mr. Slow by Roger Hargreaves. It's one of the Mr. Men stories, and we will be getting to the Little Miss books as well. So, stick around for that. Let me flip a couple of pages in so we can get to the first page. Get ready, get comfortable, wherever you are, because we're about to delve into story time. That's right. Okay, let's do this. Mr. Slow, as well as you might know, or maybe you don't, lived next door to Mr. Busy. And they're saying that because in the last book, the one before this, is about Mr. Busy, and Mr. Slow is in that story because they live next door to each other. So if you haven't read that one, feel free to jump back a video and watch that, or find it and watch that video as well. If not, totally cool. Let's find out about Mr. Slow and what he's about. He built his house by himself, slowly. It had taken him 10 years. It's a nice little house that he's done there. And as you might well know, or maybe you don't, Mr. Slow talked in an extraordinarily slow way. He talked like this. Every single thing he did was as slow as the way he talked. He's waving, saying hello there. Hey everyone. Say hello, Mr. Slow. Nice. For instance, if Mr. Slow was writing this book about himself, you wouldn't be able to read it yet. He wouldn't even have gotten as far as this page. That's funny. For instance, if Mr. Slow was eating a currant cake for tea, it took him until bedtime. He'd eat it crumb by crumb, currant by currant, chewing each crumb and each currant 100 times. Wow. For instance, last Christmas it took Mr. Slow until New Year's Eve to open his Christmas presents. And then it took him until Easter to write his thank you letters. Oh, he was a slow man. Now this story isn't about the time Mr. Slow went on a picnic with Mr. Busy. That's what the last story was about. That's another story. No, this story is about the time Mr. Slow decided to get a job. He read all the job advertisements in the Sunday paper, which took him until Wednesday, and then he got himself a job reading the news on television. Can you imagine? It's very embarrassing, it says. Mr. Slow looking for jobs. And here we go. This will be him reading on the news. You can see him in the TV there. Good evening, said Mr. Slow. Here is the 9 o'clock news. It took him until midnight to read it. 3 hours long. He was sitting there reading to everyone. And everybody who was watching went to sleep. So that job wasn't any good, was it? Uh-oh. Then Mr. Slow got himself a job as a taxi driver. Take me to the railway station, cried Mr. Uppity as he leapt into his taxi. I have a train to catch at 3 o'clock. Right. Right. Ho, said Mr. Slow, and set off at 1 mile an hour, and arrived at the train station at 4 o'clock. So that job wasn't any good, was it? Poor Mr. Uppity was an hour late. And that summer, Mr. Slow got a job making ice cream. But by the time he made the ice cream, it wasn't exactly the right sort of weather to be selling ice cream. They got a job selling ice cream in the summer. But, uh-oh. You don't really have as much ice cream in the winter, but I do, I guess, even in cold weather. I have ice cream any time of weather. So Mr. Slow got himself a job making woolly scarves. But by the time he'd finished making the scarves, it wasn't exactly the right sort of weather to be selling scarves. Oof. Poor Mr. Slow. He went around to ask the other Mr. Men what he should do. Be a racing driver, suggested Mr. Silly. It's a silly suggestion, yeah? Can you imagine? No. Mr. Slow in a race car? Be an engine driver, suggested Mr. Funny. Can you imagine? No. Be a speedboat driver, suggested Mr. Tickle. No. Can you imagine? No, no, no. It wouldn't really work. But then Mr. Happy had an extremely good idea. Most sensible. Be a steamroller driver, he suggested. And today, that is exactly what Mr. Slow does. Slowly backwards and slowly forwards he drives. Up and down and up. Ever so slowly. Perfect job. Steamrollers, they roll things flat, like roll cement and stuff like that. And they go really slow. The next time you see a steamroller doing that, look and see if Mr. Slow is driving it. If he is, you shout to him, "Hello, Mr. Slow. Are you having a nice time?" And he'll wave. Shout back to you, "Yes, thank you, good, bye." There we go. That's Mr. Slow. Hope you enjoyed the story today. Thanks so much for reading it. I love that you read these stories with me. It means the world. Alright, if you like them, click that bell below. That would also mean the world. Alright, bye for now, but not forever. I'll be back again with another story really soon.